we're supposed to find 10 years ago. That's what it took. It took his reelection. It took this FBI to go in there and find it. And it takes a long time to get through that material. But I would say stay tuned this week. You might see a thing or two.
Kash Patel.
Kash Patel, and I bring this up for the third time this week because I think we may have gotten something that maybe I overlooked, that I didn't really overlook, but we'll get into that a little bit. But that made any sense to any of you guys. You're more awake than myself. But how is it going out there, my fellow world patriots? It is indeed Friday, April 24th, 2026. And before I bring in Ghost and Doc Mike here, I was just going to say, you know, he's mentioning Kash Patel here saying, you know, hey, might see some stuff this week, right? And, you know, as previously mentioned, we got a pretty substantial piece of information having to do with the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is really a really eye-opening situation here because our country is so damn racist that we needed to manufacture the racism. And we've seen this over and over, and I've mentioned this, you know, a couple times this week as well. Back on the 8chan boards when they had the posts, basically, if I was on the boards right now and I made a post, it would literally say YOU in parentheses. And then so when I read it, it says you. And so you know that you made the post. We've seen it in the past where certain intelligence agencies would write, oh, you know, anti-Semitic stuff or whatever, and then they're like, look, we took a screenshot of this post we found on the 8chan boards, and we look at the post and it says YOU, and then we're like, oh, they thought we were stupid. So they've been trying to set us up as racist, you know, all sorts of isms and harmful disinformation actors and bullying and harassers for years, and the attacks are ramping up, you know. Kash Patel's a drunk all of a sudden, and you know they're going to go after him, and the timing of this is just lovely. So I feel like this SPLC is a little bit bigger than maybe I first pegged it to be, but I'm really loving it. But in anyways, let's bring in Mr. Ghost and Mr. Mike. Guys, how are you guys doing on this wonderful Friday? I hope all is going as well as it can be.
Just fine. Spaceshot on
Yes,
Friday.
Sir. Yeah, beautiful here.
Good.
You guys, I hope you got good. I'm glad to hear it. And of course, you know, I always thank the folks for, you know, we had our buddy Ardoc the other day, had a couple family issues. One of our other longtime viewers, one of 18, had a couple medical issues last week. And of course, Mike, your wife Renee. And whenever I ask people for prayer, that's why I always say thank you in advance, because it's funny, and I'm kind of happy that it is. Those are my most engaged, you know, posts that go up on X are the ones that people respond to prayer. And that's why I always say thank you guys in advance, because there's always like hundreds and hundreds of like video of, you know, well wishes and prayers. So just wanted to thank everybody for doing that, because all the prayers definitely help, and especially in numbers.
Absolutely. And, you know, I just want to say thank you for all the people that were praying too. It was a difficult surgery. She did get through it. Took a little bit longer than expected, but she pulled through well and is in recovery now.
That's awesome. And of course, you know, it's still, you know, not an easy road ahead, let's say, you know, and so keep those prayers up is what I would ask everybody to do out there. So, and you know, I've said it for years, and you know, I don't, you know, fluff my audience at all, but I truly believe, you know, we have the greatest community out here, because they're always willing to help each other out and send prayers and be helpful to other people, like help, you know, guide folks. And if you need information or whatever, really good community for that stuff, and sticking together. So really love that our community is like that. Let me clear my throat here.
Well, it's been like that for you throughout the years, and you've had a wonderful audience. Very, very astute, very attentive, and very compassionate. And that's something that yeah, even when you had a lull in things for a while, when these, let's say, these wonderful organizations were going after you, well, you know, karma's a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming back around. And I made this post. I showed Ghost and Mike just before that. Well, not this one, but I showed them just before the show. I wrote this during the Table of Titans last night. I was like, hey, Media Matters, your asses are next. I can't wait to write the article when a lot of you guys are indicted. Because I think it will be coming. I think there are more groups that were doing this stuff, but I really feel, and I could be wrong because I don't know the hierarchy, but I do know SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, as we just showed, and Media Matters. I know, what did you say? The ACLU? Was it the ACLU or the ADLU?
Yeah, ACLU.
Oh, God. So, I mean, all these places, right? Like, even in the drops back then, it used to say to us, all these groups that we're told to trust, and all these organizations that are out there that are making it look like they're trying to do a certain positive thing, we're absolutely out there doing the opposite thing, manufacturing racism, like the whole Charlottesville thing. I argue with that guy I worked with for a better part of, I don't know, 4 years or so. And, we came to the realization that just came public, like what, the beginning of this year or the end of last year, that everybody came to like they kind of were bullshitting about Charlottesville. And then this lags behind by what, 6 months, 8 months, a year. But at the end of the day, like you said, karma's a bee, and it seems like they're getting their comeuppance, and I'm here for it, so I'm loving it. But
they tried to paint you as a far right extremist, which is hilarious, number one, and they try to paint others because grifting. And yes, there is that element out there, but people know the difference very easily, and you've always been on that side of the things where nobody could point fingers to you. That's why I thought it was kind of ridiculous and funny back then. Even like, they're not going to get anywhere with this. Why are they? What? And the fact that they can just use their public stance to point a finger at a guy in Rhode Island who cares about his country, and that's basically what it comes down to. No, they wanted every voice had to be silenced, no matter what. And it's a sad time. We're going to look back on history on these last, let's say, 8 years in particular, and we're not going to be happy about how it looks, but I think we need to do it realistically, and I think we need to present history for what it was, not for what people want it to be. And it's just an important thing to do, and to point that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in our society, for sure. And I didn't want to go, I don't want to change any subjects on you guys, right? But I know we were touching on this, and I texted you guys or the group yesterday to say, oh, well, we just did our show, and I was like, they have stuff on Noah's Ark. So if you guys got specific stuff you want to talk about, I'd pull something up for a second, but I didn't know if you guys had any input on any of that, or if you guys, have any. Is any of that legit? Because I know that they've been saying that they allegedly knew where this thing was for quite a while or whatever, but I'm really in the dark about this stuff. So is that, you guys got anything on that you would like to touch on? I can pull up any, a couple of different videos that have, what they're showing the area of, but apparently it's Noah's Ark.
Are they still showing that same place in Turkey?
Isn't it Mount Ararat?
Ararat.
Yeah, Ararat, yeah.
So I've a good brother, a friend of mine, Timothy Hogan, has actually visited the place, hiked up there, years back, in his younger years. Actually had the opportunity to go up to that place. So in retreats that annual retreats that I go to, we've spoken about those places, others, and just other different places and items of historical interest. So it is up in that area, but it is heavily guarded by military and security presence. It's totally off guard. Got to have special permissions, and even getting those special permissions, it's from my understanding, from what Tim had told me, it's pretty much about who you know, and and also being within the brotherhood.
Interesting. And I find it you know, they've been kind of doing this, but they're making more of like a public thing out of it. It's being on Fox now, and
Yeah.
you know, we're seeing this, and then we're seeing now all more of the alien stuff. So I mean, I've been saying it for years, and I've been under the impression that, say, you know, when push comes to shove, you know, and say the bad guys are up against it, maybe that the end all be all kind of default plan would be to do like a you know, a fake alien invasion, or even the fake, you know, coming of Jesus or whatever God is in that area, because they can tailor it to, you know, specific people as well. But you know, we got that, the UFO stuff, and then all these different scientists missing. And as you guys, I'm sure, have heard, the passing of David Wilcock. And, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys want to make any comments on that, because it's alleged that he may have taken his life. And then, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I used to watch David probably, I want to say 2008 to like 2012 time frame, you know, all the Edgar Casey stuff and all the different stuff that he was presenting. And I was just, for some reason, I don't know what it was, but maybe it was, you know, kind of to do what I'm doing now, but I was just consuming all sorts of everything you could assume, you know, you could consume as far as, quote, conspiracy theory stuff, you know, back in, I don't even know, 2006 to 12, but I was just eating up everything I could get online. Planet X, sure. You know, moon landing, sure. Give me everything. Give me everything. So, if any comments, you know, you guys would like to make, if anything.
Mike, you knew him, so
Yeah, David was an absolute gem of a friend, a colleague, you know, a coworker that, you know, we co-worked on some different white papers, you know, different work stuff. Don't want to get into that. You know, I'm very torn apart about, you know, what happened with what unfolded, and I'm you know, I'm deeply troubled about it, and you know, and I'm sad for his family, his loved ones, and it's tragic. And you know, I spoke out to friends of ours that we're all connected with, and the day before, when he went to work, he was fine, he was okay, and then, you know, then obviously, you know, the following day that, you know, stuff happened. And so what I found out is that, you know, I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to contaminate anything or say something that I shouldn't, because there's an ongoing investigation for it. And I'll just leave that part at that part. But as David as a whole, David was a brilliant person, a lovable person. When you needed help on something, on whatever type of work you're working on, historical science, academic, you know, he was there for you to pick his brain and brainstorm. He would brainstorm with you. Absolute gentleman, and you know, and you know, I'll miss him to pieces. You know, so
I'm sorry to hear,
you know,
brother. I don't think he was a friend.
Yeah. You know, it's God raised him to heaven.
Oh, go ahead, man.
No, I was just saying, you know, God, please just raise him to heaven, where, you know, he can continue on with his next phase of life and be happier, watch over his loved ones, and know that his work will be continued.
Amen. Yeah, and
there's been a lot of that lately.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a little scary.
Yeah, but it should go to show people that when certain ones have a certain voice, and I'll just leave it at this, it's getting really dirty. It's getting stupid. And it's nasty. And this, he's gone. Now, how that shakes out, you know, like Mike said, you know, let them do their thing. But, and I'm not going to say anything to interfere with any of that. But it's just very sad that we've gotten to this point just in this country and in others. And it shows you how serious all of this is. These guys are playing for keeps. So they're going to reach down to wherever they have to if they feel it's necessary. And that's disgusting. You want to play those games? Okay. I'm sure there's people out there ready to play it back. And they don't factor that in. Because that's the refuge of a last resort. And I don't see where he was doing, or he was trying to, just get along in life like everybody else. And it's just a nasty, rotten, dirty thing. And it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And in fact, David, what David, was doing, there's no bearing of what he deserved for any of that to happen. And he was just a loving friend, a loving guy, a colleague within a consortium, a group of colleagues that we all work together in certain things. And in our, and it's not just the profession, it's what we love working on. It's our dream. It's like what you would call your dream career. And it's just sad to see, that these things are going on. And, obviously, it's been going on for quite some time. And I've reached out to a couple very high, very director level up people from past positions at ONI and other, and other agencies and military organizations mainly, and stuff that we post collaborated on. And it's just through the years, through the past 10 years, there's a lot of people that have passed away to unfortunate events, and some that aren't even heard of, and they're not on the news, and then the ones that are on the news, obviously, they're out there, but the list is bigger than what, than just 11, 12 people that they're saying. And it's not necessary for these, it's just not necessary for these actions to happen. It isn't. And why? I can't answer that question. Ultimately, it's more acute and broad at the same time, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to get into that whole investigation thing, but it's let's just keep leaving it is it needs to stop, and just let people do their work. It's not harming anyone, and if anything, it's just creating the future of our landscape, of our world, to a better place. And it helps people, in certain arenas and capacities. And it also, with David, and others, and Mark, and, and just other people, it just, they were great friends, and they were great people because, they wrote amazing books. They wrote amazing, magazine articles that they're in. And also, different, they did all these TV channels, so people could, get into the know of, what's in their head, and understand, and get to the history portion, the cool and the fun stuff, and what's going on. And for for all that to be taken away because of someone's I don't believe your way, or misinterpretation, or something else, whatever that may be, I think it's just sad. and it crosses the line, and it has to be stopped. It has to be stopped, and but the most important thing is, definitely please pray for the families, and that's the most important part is, praying for them and for their families. And and their work, their work is an absolute legacy, a legacy that will continue on for the eons. And that's the most important part, because they've dedicated their life to the work that they love.
And I think right now what we're unfortunately seeing is certain voices that could raise their finger and cry bullshit if certain things were done, or if certain things continue to go in the direction they are, and they wanted to misrepresent. And I also think they want to keep that reserve, that they can pull that final card out of the deck. And I think they're seeing that, and that by its very nature, and by people like Dr. Carol Rosin, who I love dearly, putting it out there years ago. This is what he said to me, and she should know. She worked for him.
I remember that.
She, long, long ago, I'd heard things about this prior to 2001, I think, the middle of the year, when they came out with that, I think it was Disclosure Conference or something like that in DC, where they had all these whistleblowers come up, and people that are still with us now that give their little take of what happened in the past. But it appears to me as if somebody's trying to silence a reasonable edge to anything that would be misrepresented or mispresented in the future, be it a fake alien invasion or just be it more disclosure. So we're dealing with a much bigger issue all the way around, but why stoop to that level with this?
Yeah.
He was not. He was a voice, and they know how to discredit voices. And if somebody really wanted to discredit him for whatever agenda, and I'm not saying that is centered in this country, the silence, that's around the planet. That's around the globe.
Oh yeah, I was going to add
certain
that
interests don't want that out.
China
or
as well.
Aspects of that out. Mm-hmm.
We're seeing some of these missing scientists in other countries as well, and you don't know if maybe they're making it look like that to say it's not us or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, the long story short is there are scientists
it's not like
that are going missing.
Been done before.
Yeah.
No,
it's microbiologists.
Yeah. Well, it's a global, with all the scientists, researchers, historians. It's not just here in the U.S. It's a global thing, and that's kind of what I was reverting to. Is, the people that aren't on the news. There's colleagues and friends that I've worked with that are from different nations, and that we've all worked on collaborative project efforts, and I'm not going to say the countries or the nations, but it's they were amazing, brilliant scientists. I mean, you're talking people with like triple PhDs, and even simple people with a bachelor's degree or high school degree that just were super smart, and they found their passion, and they got into the line of work, and they were just so creative, and they were just so smart and savvy, and they were the brains of the scientific, of just the work that we had worked on and the work that they worked on. And for them to be silenced, put in a prison, or taken away somewhere, it's a lot bigger than what most people know, and that's the hard part. Is especially because outside of the United States, it's not really touched upon, and a lot of people don't know who these other people are, because it's a very close-knit community, and and it's just it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't.
Definitely not. And so, we're seeing other, I would say, I don't know if they seem to be related, right? But we've seen a bunch of this, and I'm going to get into, maybe it's raining in Iran lately in a little bit, but we've seen this again. How many times have we seen a burnt church in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? Not only here in the United States, which this one is the first Reformed Church of Astoria, built in 1839. And obviously fires do happen from time to time, but we had the Notre Dame Cathedral thing that was burning down during a rehab. And how many times have we seen something like this? And again, I don't know, could be just a regular fire, but it also could be somebody doesn't like churches, doesn't like Catholics or Christians or something like that. If you catch my drift, but I don't know.
Yeah, just fine. I'm sure everybody else does too. But yeah, these people are not. Look, the number one murdered, tortured, let's say harshly treated group of people on the planet is Christians. When you look at the overall picture,
absolutely.
There's so many places you can't go. Open your mouth, show your cross, see what happens. And I don't for the life of me understand why we're just sitting by and accepting that. We shouldn't be. And what is happening in Iran right now, again, a number of us warned you that there would be a lot of garbage out there, but you're seeing unmitigated total crap out there now. Total lies. And in different, I'll make this point again, in different sections around the world. Take it in within a radius of yourself. You've got an apparatus at work now that is it's testing itself out in controlling human opinion, okay, around the world. So I'm talking to different people in different countries, and I'm getting totally different viewpoints on what's happening in Iran. I don't say a thing. I just say, tell me what you're seeing. Oh, this is happening and that. And I'm like, no, it isn't. At the end of it, I'll say, no, none of that is happening, actually. This is what's happening. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you only have access to what you have access to. And
yeah, and especially with because I have a Iranian. There was in 2019 and 20, I worked with a professor, and her family was from Tehran, and I had reached out to say hi to her, and she gave me an update, and talking about food shortages and the water, having the boiling, you have to boil the water to consume it. And it's, what you're seeing on the news is actually not what's happening, and it's a lot more tragic than what the news is portraying, unfortunately. And that's just at the human level.
Yeah. And I mean,
fog of war.
I have one telling me that Israel's being destroyed. They'll never recover from this. And well, that's not quite true. And at all. And that our Navy's being hit left and right. And I think sunken ships, somebody even told me they saw it. I said, you saw AI. You didn't see any ship go down. It's really bizarre because it's I'll say, send me that. Let me see it. I'll look at it and I'll go, well, okay. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Now it's believe virtually with certain, let's say, outlets, it's believe nothing of what you see and nothing of what you hear from them.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous right now. But I don't know we obviously know all the things that can be used for and what it is used for. But right now it's a bit bizarre. It's on the bizarre scale right now, how out there a lot of these videos are and a lot of these articles.
Yeah. And how many people are dying here, in this huge conflict, and any one person, any one US soldier that is dead is enough. But I ran it through ChatGPT and it says 13 to 15 maybe, and then it says, I don't know, 3,000 to 6,000 Iranians, and I'm like, Wow, it's a lot of bombing. And then again with the weirdness, like you mentioned, Ghost, and I'll pass it to Mike, which is Mike, this is I'm not a soldier, right? I was never in the military, but I usually think like war is you want to annihilate the other side, right? And then
Yeah.
like we've seen it a few years ago. So we've seen it a few years ago and up to this very day, even recently, which is Trump, hit them with some missiles, and then he says, "Oh, well, Iran just reached out to us and said, hey, we're going to throw some missiles back at you at this base, but we're not going to hit the base. We're going to land just short." And I'm like, okay, that's not like really freaking weird. And then we're even hearing the same thing that Iran's doing over here and saying, hey, we're about to hit this area and this area. You might want to move some people out of there. And I'm like, wow, these people are really cordial in a wartime setting. So, I mean, any comments on
So
that?
polite. Well,
so polite, so weird.
Well, and
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
yeah, so I just want talk about body count, right? And in the fog of war, and when you talk about people being killed in action, or innocent civilians being killed, and numbers being thrown out there, and through various schoolhouses, and just throughout service, and knowledge. And there's always I had a professor who quoted a saying, and I've always stuck to it, is when somebody gives you a number in a reason or statements of such, is that you always add a zero to it. You don't want to shortfall yourself, and the reason for that is when you have 3,000 Iranians, or 300 Iranians dead, right, is, add a zero to that. And you add the zero to that to make sure that, you add the zero to that to make sure that, when your next targets come, is that you're more target effective on your target spots, and making sure that you're not, having collateral damage. And so in essence, that professor, educating, add to zero on that, is that you don't want collateral damage. So always add the zero onto that to bring in the focus and the target focus, that you're more effective, target effective on your vector. And adding the zero can go to a lot of different other various different types of scenarios, or especially with biological warfare stuff like COVID. It could go a lot deeper, especially when you're counting numbers, counting bodies and all that stuff. It's what we did back in during COVID. It's you always got to do things like that, to simplify it, but also to maximize, to make sure that you're more target effective.
Mm-hmm. And I would, in this situation specifically, I would go back to, I just saw a clip again yesterday of Trump with a Barbara Walters interview in 1987. This is 8 years after Iran basically made its turn. They did it in 79, late 79, I believe. It was early, no, it was mid. Oh, no. Well, it was 79. Let's just leave it there. But you're talking 7.5, 8 years later. He's making the very same statements today. And I remember that situation well. I was a kid, but I remember it. And my attitude has never changed on Iran. 47 years now. And you're looking at a country that was the biggest disruption to the Abraham Accords actually taking hold, and real forward progress being made in the Middle East, finally, and a stability to that region so that energy could flow unimpeded, whether it's to China or whoever, just so it doesn't bring about larger problems. Now, people are criticizing on a very short range of time and knowledge on this whole issue. War is the last position you take in the political realm. It's the last tool of diplomacy. It's okay. Is it going to be a bar fight or an alley fight? One guy pops a knife out, the other does. You want to render him incapable of harming you. The whole thing with this is to render their military, first and foremost, and their government equally unable to do anything, unable to prosecute anything, unable to do anything to harm you, and in this case, more of its own people. Because I have a feeling the numbers go way above 40,000. I don't think that's an exaggeration on their own people killed by them. And that's all we're finally doing. And I love what Hegseth said when he said about how they're having a conference to have a conference to talk about doing something about this someday.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah,
paraphrasing,
and at least he's bringing it up, right?
right. And he's saying, this is for you. You guys, number of you countries, and you're a benefit from this more than we do. But we want to see overall stability in the region because there are still unstable areas in surrounding that, particularly to the southeast, that have to be dealt with in the future. So you don't want a contentious, you want as calm a Middle East as possible. Not only for them, but just for the world. And again, the uninterruption of commerce. I think everything is shifting. It is shifting to a more commerce-based global situation and different alignments traditionally than in the past. And we're seeing this come about in real time. And all some people can do is bitch and bellyache and moan. And I heard this one question from, I think, I sound like they have an Australian accent, but I don't know where they're from. But they were asking, how does it feel to get an order to go kill people? What?
Oh, God.
I thought they were supposed to get smarter press people in there. What do you think wearing
You don't ask
uniform
questions
consists
like
of? Yeah, you don't ask things like that. Your
No.
job is to kill people and break things, period. Or you're in support of that job if you're in the military. You are an actual trigger puller or you're in support of that. That's the whole mission. Secondary is delivering supplies to a tsunami-ridden Southeast Asia. But nonetheless, it's done with equal efficiency and equal vigor.
Yes.
So I think it's about time people stop having these 60s attitudes about things. See things for what they are. And we have some of the most professional, we have the most professional and adaptable military on the planet, bar none. And our capabilities are such, yeah, we could be a real pain in the ass if we wanted to be, but nobody wants that, and that's not going to happen. So let things go the way they are right now there, because bad guys are being dealt with. Yeah. And I know some don't like to differentiate between the good. No, some really rotten human beings are being dealt with right now.
Well, and you talk about the bad guys, right? And when you have your elements on the ground that are helping in with airstrikes, they are so cautious and so cautious when they're on the ground calling in the airstrikes. They will make sure that, okay, there's a child there. There's a child there. Okay, there's a family there. There's a mom and two children. Can't strike. Do not strike. Do not strike now. And they are so cautious to make sure that the collateral damage is minimal to none. And that is their job, and that's part of that's part of their training. That's part of their core, and it's to make sure that it doesn't happen, to the best of their ability, and and to follow the rules of engagement, to follow the rule of law, and the Geneva Convention, whatever what you may call it. But more importantly, down to the human soul in itself, to that individual. You don't want to be that person that is going to call in an airstrike on, just one building with, a couple, some terrorist bad guys in it, and you got kids playing soccer outside of it. I mean, unless you're sicko or something, but it's, that because that weighs heavily on your conscience. And And, so that's why, the training is so in depth, and it's memory based training, and it's basic skills training over and over and over, and very repetitive to make sure you got everything down to muscle memory. And
the variables will arise.
yes, they will.
And I'm sure that the weaponry nowadays is, probably a little bit more accurate than it was, say, in years past and decades past.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
So you can do that. And in response to kind of, what Ghost was talking about as far as the people that are pushing these narratives, I think it's incumbent upon us to remind folks, too, that it's not just racist stuff that they were pushing, right? And so we've known about the, maybe X amount of dollars per post or whatever, but just think about that on a grand scale, because all these idiots that are out there like, oh, see what Trump's doing, just furthering this stuff. And the one that kills me, guys, the most is these idiots that literally only have a following because they supported President Trump and now are bashing on him with their following that they gained through him. And it's like, so it's like me going and just bashing Trump because, I feel like something changed or something. Or maybe it's not organic, right? And so that's what I'm kind of trying to bring to people's attention, is that some people may be just genuinely black-pilled, right? And they genuinely believe what they believe and that are spreading it. Others are being paid to push a narrative that the other people can latch onto. So that's something that we need to, it's always a narrative push, right? It's always how can you push the story. And, I've never seen this stuff before. Like, this whole thing is just super weird to me. I feel like we're living in like upside downville, because again, we're gonna be hitting you at noon at the southern tip of this area. You might want to move your people there. But this whole thing is just wild to me. And I did pull that up. Let me give us a 55-second breather, because I did pull up that Barbara Walters thing here, and apparently it's got another clip into it. So it's a total of 55 seconds. Let's hear what President Trump said way back in the day.
Because I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we
in,
take their oil?
You go in. You're
how
have
do
a
we
war,
go
Barbara.
in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me.
Yeah?
You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
Gotta love it. I mean, he's been saying the same thing for 40 friggin' years. But no, he's just doing because Susie Wiles said to do it, and BB said to do it, and and then,
no, actually, it's been done on our terms. Everything points to that. Every bit of it points to that.
It seems that
it's
way,
our
right?
terms. And there's going to probably be one more on top of that. It's a little island 90 miles off of our southernmost tip at Key West, and
Cuba.
no one's gonna complain about it, especially the Cuban people.
No, they want us
It's
to.
obvious. Yeah, it's obvious that that's coming, and you're taking away. What you're taking away, in essence, is those who own the money systems, holdouts around the world. That's what you're doing. That's what's so upsetting. That's why they're throwing resources at it. That's why people are dying on every front. And nobody's talking about that aspect of it from that point of view. Right. And I think that's important that people start looking at it on a bigger picture scheme. And a lot of this will make sense to you very quickly. When you see that there's several mafias that run this planet, let's say 5. Well, right now you have the top 2 most powerful going at each other. That's ultimately what's going on here. Now, do you want a good mafia in control? Your choice is only a mafia, by the way. That's humanity. That's it in a nutshell. Do you want somebody who plays at least by some rules, somebody who looks out for the most part, for the greatest good, for the greatest number? Or do you want those who are going to tap you and sap you dry from the day you're born till the day you die?
Like
What do you
has been
want?
happening, right? Like has been happening.
Yeah. Hence why I asked people years ago, really ask yourself, what do you want? Because getting it sometimes is not nice and it's not easy. But when it's done, it's done. If it's done right. And this is being done right. This is why it's taken time. They used to say moves, counter moves. Well, that's basically in a nutshell. It always has been. Only you've never had access to it before. Now you have a little more access, actually a lot more. With a lot of the great books that have been put out there, the research and history, real history that's been presented. And, we are in a time of great revealing. There's no doubt about it. And there are some who just want to hold to their little worlds every day. And don't shake my cage. Don't shake my cage. I don't want to hear that rattle. How about you get up and get out of it?
Mm-hmm. Get out of that
More than
cage.
ever, many are being given the chance to do that.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Mm.
And you just hear agendas, and I just love watching mainstream media that cut its own throat slowly, shoving that knife right in. Because that's and then who are they parading out there now with his books? Jake Tapper.
Oh God.
Oh please, you idiot. He's, in my humble opinion, of course. But this is how they're even trying. And some people will buy that nonsense. No, you knew all along that man was crapping his pants and didn't know left from right or up from down. You knew about the autopen. You knew about all of it. But you never said a damn thing. You defended it. This idiocy's got to stop. And I think it's an insult to every decent American. It is a total insult to their intelligence to watch this stuff play out and take valuable time out of their day, wasting it with this nonsense. And then people argue over it. Well, okay, I got to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's right in your face right now. And then if anybody thinks this is normal, think again. It's not.
Well,
None of it is.
The whole part of the not normal thing is, we are at war without declaring a war. So we're
Right.
effectively watching countries fight each other without officially calling it war. And
Yep.
I guess so. Is that, to pose a question, is that by design? I could break it down a little bit, but I mean, in essence, this is gray zone warfare ultimately, which keeps pressure high. Stay just below the threshold that the triggers full retaliation.
Mm.
That's really it. I think you hit it, because for the first time, there's a type of warfare being waged in everybody's head and in their home, by extension, in their communities and in the country. This is what it's like to be under siege. And the battleground truly is in the minds, in between everybody's ears. It's a temporal battleground. And we go by metaphors, narratives, stories. And that's how we pass information on from generation to generation, let alone data and facts. But to give larger pictures, it's usually done through, or to manipulate people. Rather, let's talk about the reality of it. You've got to present, let's say, something that they can buy if they don't do the homework. Now I see another thing about the greater Earth theory. Well, that's cute, but it's not real.
Greater Earth?
Have you seen that one? Look that up right now.
Greater Earth.
Yeah, where all the continents are on a flattish plane.
Greater
not flat,
Earth?
on a giant globe that we're not allowed out beyond the seawall, beyond the ice wall.
Greater Earth? I
Okay.
don't think I've. Oh wait, here, like this.
Yeah.
Beyond the ice wall?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
now,
Yeah.
Ghost, we were running late last week when you went on your anti-flat Earth rant, but I'm gonna have to add that whatever the narrative they're pushing, they're still doing it because the information that they're showing, like the Artemis launch, they're still very sloppy with whatever they're doing because. So I don't know if it's people in NASA that is trying to push the flat Earth narrative or whatever, but they are messing up a lot during these live streams. That it's like every time they do a live stream, it's like, oh wait, why is this guy glitching out? Why is this little plushie here see-through or reflective? So like you were talking about the guy with the eyebrows a couple weeks ago, who may or may not be dead.
Yeah, the nice curly horned eyebrows.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, they keep, like, I put it this way, I could pull you up and no matter who's trying to push the narrative, right? So like I've said to people, like, I just want a simple point and shoot picture of the Earth, right? Which they claim they can't do. They have to take the little strips as they go and then put them together and then color them. And I'm like, I don't care how shitty the picture is. I just want a picture of the Earth at a distance. You know what I mean? Give me that. But then they give you all this stuff that they...
Shown.
What's that?
I mean, it comes down to whether or not you believe it's real. And I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to spend all that money, make a big production that in this is the day and age of the whistleblower. Anybody who is part of that or semi a part of any kind of great deception, it's not going to carry. It's not going to carry. There's a real moon up there, and we're trying to stake our flag on a portion of it. That's the only way, according to all international agreements, you can get a section of the moon where you want to work it and study and see what industrial things you can bring of it or things that benefit people on the planet. And all I can say is you're either going to accept that as real, and if you don't want to accept anything as real, that's okay too, but it's going to be a very difficult existence over time that will give you, but I'm not saying buy the psyop. It's not, in my estimation, no, we just went around the moon. And the science is there. I know a lot of people want to go on this big thing, but don't you think that is, again, whether it's NASA or whether it's something else, and there's a million of them out there, what do you choose to be distracted by? And what do you choose to actually bear down and look at realistically? That's what it comes down to.
True.
And even with the astronauts that went up there, they have missions to conduct too. So, they may be conducting some form of operation that is classified, and they can't share the location or what they're doing at some point in time.
Well, that I can buy.
And so, yeah, there may be some glitches or issues that you're seeing while they're conducting their operations. And that's been since the Apollo programs.
Since Mercury, actually.
And Mercury too. Yeah. Thank you for the correction. Yeah, Mercury. And there's tons of classified astronaut missions that are going on, and that's national security, global security, and and with everything going on within satellites coming down to Earth and what it may be, maybe they're trying to fix something up there, and it's just a lot of people are just making things. I'm not saying everything is what it is what we're seeing, but maybe they're doing something that they really have to focus on. And
I could maybe buy that.
And maybe.
Okay, Mike. Sorry.
No. And the last part was, maybe some of the newer people that are in there, may have, messed up a little bit by not paying their full 100% attention to the fine details of things and made those mistakes. Trying to, make sure that those covert, astronaut missions were a success, and none of the astronauts got hurt, and everything was mission successful. So,
Yeah, and
you
so
know,
I could definitely buy something like because I could buy that they're presenting us with a bunch of BS because it for me it's Bush League stuff that they are messing up left and right on. Now, if they're doing that to present this to the folks and say, "Hey, look, we're going to the moon, da da da, we're driving around, cool," but other things are going on, that I could buy. But again, all of the mathematics seem to be satanic, right? And I mean, what's this horned goat guy who's putting a friggin', I mean, he's got sigils on his fingers. This dude's got a big ass beard at NASA with a white, he's supposed to be a scientist. I don't know what the hell he's supposed to be, but he's got all this crap. So if other things are going on, then I could buy that. But and I've always said too, like you've never heard the words other than me saying it right now, that you've never heard me say, I believe the earth is flat, right? Like I've said, I believe there's some issues, which one of them could be the earth is way bigger than they tell us it is, because we see certain things like, just for example, let's just say this patch was a lighthouse and it's, 200 feet tall. And then there's mountains behind it, 100 miles away, right? We shouldn't be able to see like the mountains at 100 miles because of the curvature and the math and blah, blah, blah. But yet we have numerous examples where we can see that. Again, that could be explained away if the earth was way bigger or a little bit more flatter in certain areas. Like, Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about oblate spheroid, whatever. So that stuff I could buy, right? But this stuff is trash. Like, I'm sorry. Why are you taking picture that up close of this guy's satanic hands with the sigils on it, and then you have all the messed up, like I said, you can search, I could search on here right now for you, like the plushie that they brought up on Artemis. It started like glowing and you could see through it and it had a reflection. It's like, all right, so that for me, and I think one of the actors, I don't know if this guy was, but one of the other guys was like in IMDb as well. So again, it could all be to the side. And so I don't want to, get derailed on this, because I do have a different question for you guys. And if this is something, I know this certain scientific stuff maybe you guys don't want to get into. So if this kind of going into that realm, then let me know. But you guys remember a couple weeks ago, I think I pulled up on this show that group. We talked a little bit about Entheos and how they were talking about have your level of discernment tested, and then CERN was in all capitals. And the only reason I bring that up is because I kind of liken that to this, where these guys on OpenAI, they say that we're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens. The portals currently exist in the United States and China, and Sam has added one in the Middle East. So Hulk actually brought this up on our show last night, The Table of Titans, and I'm like, wait, what? So apparently Sam Altman, I think, is saying that they're genuinely summoning aliens through AI or whatever it is, and for me, I just don't like all of this. This
Summoning, interesting term.
Yes, summoning. Well, and I don't. First off, I don't like the summoning of anything. Right? Certainly not demons. Yeah. But then also like the rush to get all this stuff out in the last year or so. It's just like, oh, AI data centers. We need power data centers, and it's like, wait, people are getting charged through the roof for electricity, and then maybe they're going to have some of these modular, power supplies. I think President Trump.
Data centers comes down to greed. Comes down to who's going to be first in that AI race, and they better be careful with all this. That's all I have to say. It's not AI will never be sentient. It is not sentient. If it relies on the flow of electrons and numbers and certain programming that's been around since the 60s, by the way, it's just a very, very encompassing mimicry tool.
Like a database,
and yes,
right?
It can. It's huge databases. It's learning, self-learning.
It's so wrong all the time, though, too, dude. Like, it's so wrong all the time. Anyways, the chat GPT that I asked the questions.
The nature of it. Yeah. It only can tell you what it has access to.
Yeah,
and what each individual one, if they're separate, I don't know the technicalities of it all, but I do know that if they're separate, each of them is learning at their own rate. It's only going to learn based on the audience giving it input, meaning asking it questions, and then what it has to find and collate. Don't apply human characteristics to it, even though it interfaces with you. in a very human way as a voice now, in many respects, or as if it's writing complete and actually grammatically correct sentences in a lot of ways.
Dude, you want to hear?
And
Oh, finish your thought. Now I'm going to tell you something hilarious.
I was just going to say it's know it for what it is, and the fact that yes, it's being allowed to run rampant is like every new toy we've dealt with from nuclear energy on up. Everything went to the extremes. And then, wait a minute, it wasn't a good idea to put those X-ray machines in stores in the 1920s and 30s to see if your bones were positioned right in the shoes. Great idea, but it caused people to get cancer or to lose their feet who worked in these shops, these shoe stores. And the man in Pennsylvania who thought drinking radium, this nice glowing liquid, would help his impotence issues. Well, his jawbone literally rotted away, and
turns out it's not that good for you.
Yeah, and it fell from his skull. The tendons and muscles had all been destroyed because he'd been locally administering that into himself, let alone the rest of his body. He died a very painful death. But that was over the counter. Sure, drink this glowing green stuff, and it's supposed to help you with a hard on. But I say that to say that was the advent of understanding radiation and nuclear energy when Curie isolated radium. And they had these girls in a factory in Ohio. It's called Radium Dial and Clockworks, I believe was the name of the company. These women would turn the lights out and they paint their teeth and then smile to the camera at each other and then smile with each other. And then many of them died of cancer very young. Again, we don't look at technologies for the most part and say, where do we need to put the brakes on? Not regulate, but put the brakes on. And I guess that would lead into a form of regulation. We have to be, it's always a balancing act between the two. AI is oh yeah, here, just drink this. Just, yeah, look at your foot. Same thing, different day.
Actually, I was gonna go in one direction. Excuse me, but I got something else is a little interesting that I'd love to hear. Let me see. Police arrived. Yeah, that's the story. So one of my mods was just reiterating the official narrative on David Wilcox that they said, when the police were called and then, he took his own life when the police got there, which of course they would, make that narrative go across if they wanted to get that. So again, we weren't there, and possibly it's under investigations or it is under investigation. So we'll see how that, we'll see how that plays out. But dude, guys, all right, I'm going to chalk this one up to, again, weirdness. And I just want to get, I don't know if anybody's asked you guys about this in the last couple of weeks or not, or ever at all, but I'm just pulling it up. I had no plans on doing it. All right, let me play this video here for you guys really quickly.
At all.
All right, I'm going to let you listen to this whole video, and just coincidentally, again, this guy's now the new Navy chief, I guess, but says some interesting stuff in here, and keep special attention to what he says he recovered.
At all. So I don't know if that means anything, but they certainly don't have the signage up.
No, they don't. Look, Northern Virginia has a lot of immigrants. I came here as a refugee from Vietnam. We ran away during when the communists overtook Saigon, and this country gave us everything. And so I paid back with 25 years of service in Navy Special Operations. As a Navy diver, I recovered John F. Kennedy Jr. And his plane. And then as an EOD tech, I defused bombs for our SEAL teams and Special Forces teams because I wanted to pay back every dime of the American dream. And this
at all. So
this guy, who's I guess the Navy chief now, he was the diver back in '99 who recovered. If you notice, he didn't say. And again, I'm not saying anything either way, pro or negative, but he didn't say I recovered John F. Kennedy Jr.'s body. He said he recovered John F. Kennedy and the plane. Right here.
The communists overtook Saigon, and this country gave us everything. And so I paid back with 25 years of service in Navy Special Operations. As a Navy diver, I recovered John F. Kennedy Jr. And his plane. And then as an EOD tech, I defused bombs for our SEAL.
So, again, I'm just going to chalk this up to super weirdness, and Mike or Ghost.
I retrieved his plane.
Yeah, he said I retrieved.
You've had many accounts where they don't say they retrieve bodies, but they retrieve the aircraft.
Yeah, he said he retrieved John F. Kennedy in the plane.
So, is he lying or is he telling the truth? He's probably telling the truth. Take it for what he said. So most people are going to assume. Don't make an assumption. I'm not saying he's alive or dead. I refuse to get in the ring with that. I think that's neither here nor there. Would anybody out there, and I know there's some ladies probably bubbling in their panties from memory of him, but, I get that. It's called a personality, have fun. But whether he's alive or not, would that change what your day encompasses? Would that change what you think and how you think? It shouldn't.
Absolutely not. And you know what I've said, too, for a while, Ghost, was... Because it was even asked in the Q post, right? It was also asked if the Earth is flat, and they said no. And it said, is JFK Jr. alive? It said no. And it's kind of fuzzy whether that was the no to this question or not. But I've always said it doesn't really matter if he was alive. If he was alive, awesome, great. And I think it would be a tremendous cherry on top of the cake, right? It would be like, you could pull him out and say like, oh, hey. Look, I had to, I'm just saying, if it happened to go down this road, Trump could pull him out one day and say, oh, remember this guy? Yeah, I had to basically fake my death because I found out that they were going to try to kill me because, so-and-so, certain Hillary Clinton person wanted to be the Senate, wanted to run the Senate at that time. So, if they were to come out and that part was exposed, that could do a lot for waking up a lot of people. But beyond that, it would just be a tremendous cherry on top of the cake. You know what I mean? Other than that, I don't think, it would be great that it would be alive. Yeah. But then, you would have to, they would have to have faked his death, his wife's death, and then the wife's sister. So they would all have to be kind of, all three of them be in cahoots to be like, all right, we're going to, if this was a plan going on 26, 7 years, yeah, we're going to go away and nobody can see us for, X amount of years, or we got to get facial reconstruction, or you got to go someplace nobody ever sees these guys for 27 years. So it's a tough thing, right?
Stranger things have been done.
You would be surprised how good our witness protection programs are.
Yeah, and you'd have to wonder, And so guys, here's another let me just add a little quick piece of weirdness to this, right? Have you guys ever heard the videos that's called Joe M. Plan to Save the World? And his voice is very I'm gonna play just a 10-second clip of this. And Mike, it's kind of his voice is a little bit like yours, so I don't know if you're Joe M. or I'm just kidding. But his voice is a little like yours on the raspy side. Plan to Save the World. Here we go. Let me see if I can pull this up. But I'm just gonna add this all right, so here we go. I'm just gonna pull up a second of this. Now, if you guys remember, there was a guy that called in when they were looking for John F. Kennedy Jr. And he called in, I think he was from the Coast Guard, Petty Officer Todd. Oh, God, it's going to kill me. And I know somebody in the chat's going to get it, and I'll pull it up in a second. But long story short, that dude's voice back then in 99 is like a spitting image to this guy. So the guy that called in on the news and gave an update to say, oh, we were looking for, John F. Kennedy in this area, whatever, his voice is almost identical to this guy. So I'll play 10 seconds here.
Have you ever wondered why we go to war? Or why you never seem to be able to get out of debt? Why there is poverty, division, and crime? What if I told you there was a reason for it all? What if I told you it was done on purpose? What if I told you that those who were corrupting the world, poisoning our food, and igniting conflict were themselves about to be permanently eradicated from the earth? You might think that an idealist.
So again, super weird, and I think I might be able to find it, but the guy's voice is
plan, isn't it?
I mean, again, I
What do
don't know.
you think his voice could be? Is that what you're saying? It could be his?
All right, let me see. I think I got it right here. Let me see. Yeah, listen to this. You tell me.
We have been told by our base in Boston, he is a petty officer and a public information officer. Thank you for being with us, sir. What can you tell us about this last communication with JFK Jr.'s plane?
All I really know at this time is that it was at 9:39 p.m. and it was with the FAA, and it was on its final approach to Martha's Vineyard.
So at 9:39, to the best.
So, you know, you're talking 20 years ahead of time, right? Or, 25 years. So I don't know, but I'll tell you, the voice to me sounds very...
Why there is poverty, division, and crime. What if I told you there was a...
And they could have masked voices. And I'm not saying, I love to play the what ifs, right? So, I like to touch on the woo every now and then. I'm just laying out some weirdness that I've noticed over the years. So any comments on that whatsoever?
I'll just say this very quickly. I don't think they would chance using anything that could do a voice print analysis with his voice out there, because then you'd have people arguing over that for months. That's his voice. No, it isn't. My professional opinion is. Okay, great. But I don't think they would chance that for even that nonsense. Even though nonsense is the fare of the day, I don't think you want to draw attention to that stuff.
They're not gonna waste that money on forensic voice analysis.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Okay, good. I mean, it sounded so similar, and I would go on record saying, yes, I believe those two voices were a little different, but if they were the same person, it would be 25 years apart, and so.
Agree. I do agree with you on that.
But this stuff, guys, this stuff really this stuff concerns me, though. All this tech stuff that they're doing, and it's like, all right, on one side they're doing tech, and we've talked about the AI side of it, but like if they're trying to bring in certain things into it. I mean, you guys can touch on this, or is there anything actually, besides this, or anything in Iran that you guys wanted to touch on, or anything specifically that you guys wanted to make sure we conveyed? Because I always want to make sure, we hit on anything that you guys want to get across today.
I got a couple things on Iran and around the world, but as far as this, so through AI into opening portals or sending information packets or technology packets, whatever it may be, to open a portal. Or I've even seen it down to TikTok videos and YouTube videos of people using AI to summon demons and whatnot through Latin, manifestations, to the whole, use AI to, read a spell out of a grimoire to summon a demon, and which is kind of iconically funny, because then the opposite side of the house is you have the Vatican right now, who has already summoned all of its exorcist priest, that there's a huge upgoing issue with AI and people around the world using this technology to summon all sorts of things through AI, through different types of craft, right? And using out of grimoires, which the AI just pulls it out of the grimoire and and does the spell, and uses the spell. Now with the portal, that is a lot more complicated, because you got to think with portals or UFO, UAP portals, or the technology that they're using. That they are so more advanced than what we are right now, that our mathematics, our science could not even keep up to be equivalent. We couldn't even understand it. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't portions of secret corporations that are actually working on this, or different government divisions that do have intellect or insight on this. But as far as a LLM or a super artificial or general artificial intelligence using AI to open a alien portal. I think that's kind of a far stretch, because it's a lot more. And this is from working in certain projects to in that extent that it's a lot more complicated than just using AI to do such a thing. And yeah, there you go with the Pope stuff. Yeah, the Pope just he did all that. Goes, what do you believe, or what do you think? Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to start here. You remember a movie from the late 1950s? I wasn't born then, but it's even before my days on this planet. It was called, and I've never seen a remake of it. I've seen things touch on it, but I've never seen a remake of it. I've always wondered why. Well, I know why. Because it was Forbidden Planet. Now, if you watch that film, watch it from the perspective of understanding what it is, the machine they developed. And I think before we go headlong, AI is not so much an issue. It's when you couple it with quantum processing,
right?
Where if there's only theory as to how it works. Think of that machine that's 20 by 20 by 20 miles under this planet that caused the entire population of what I think they were called Krell. I think that was probably a takeoff on something with a Brill at the time.
Leslie Nielsen, huh?
Yeah, it's got a great cast actually, and Robbie the robot is in there, and then this machine that they're walking in. You'll see all of these things, but it's what that machine does, which is told in the format of a story. And I think before we go any headlong further into quantum processing, we need to bring one field of study up to a parity and parallel with everything else, and that's human consciousness.
Yes.
The thing that governs us all, and we govern it at the same time, is the most powerful force that we know, because it's all about perception. I can only say, well, this can happen because I perceive that, and the data points to that. But you'd be surprised. Humanity will surprise itself one day and realize many of the problems that manifest in reality is because of their collective disharmony with themselves and each other. You're going to find that. I'm jumping ahead light years here. But I think it's important that that field come out from the shadows more. It is in places like Princeton, and I think over in Finland there's a university that's got a really good department. A number of other places around the universities and institutes around the planet are really delving into this. But I think we're trying to delve into something primarily with people whose brilliant minds, brilliant intentions. But you even have to shift the position of the observer before you are able to understand some of these basic premises. But it's again like gravity. It was there all along, but nobody ever sat down until Isaac Newton and tried to quantify it and give it a mathematical equation. I'm dropping this apple fell on my head. Well, what pulls that thing down? Why doesn't it just float away? How is that in relation to the sky? How is that in relation to what we perceive as the stars? All of these things. But actually, all of that is going on inside of Isaac Newton's brain.
Well, and to add on to that, Ghost, is, something I've been studying for quite a while with some other great intellectual people, is the theory of qualia. And, which is the exploration of a subjective, which would be, what is it like, the quality of conscious experiences, the redness of red, the taste of wine, the function, it would fundamentally, it's the physical entities of intrinsic qualitative natures, which are functionalism and representationalism, that are then presented to the brain via qualia through consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, go ahead.
And well, that's where we, I think, fundamentally as human beings, that's where we have to begin, in under what sometimes I refer to as spells of the sensuous or the sensual. And this is where I think we really need to bring that aspect of as much of humanity as a whole up to par before we start really toying with things that we already know what some of the results can be. And when you're talking about, well, in Forbes back in, I think, 17 and a few other magazines and online outlets, they made the announcement, and it was from the Department of the Navy, where they're experimenting with certain propulsion systems. And a side effect of that is to manipulate reality. Big statement. Would bring fear on in some people, other people it's fascinating. And that's where that's the doorway we've gone through. But I think we're going to have to bring, and what you're saying, Mike, is extremely important. We're going to have to bring the study of consciousness up to par before we start really being able to even identify some of the things that are right in front of us that we're not seeing. And I don't mean things that are there that we're not seeing physically with our eyes. I mean, not seeing, with theory and relevance and practice right in front of us. So I just wanted to add that in there. So when they're talking about things like, yeah, there are other entities all around us all the time. Our senses, primarily the physical senses that you can get locked into very tightly, don't allow you to see that or perceive that. You'll see certain things, or you'll say, wait a minute, what was that? But you have to have the foundation with what that is and what others have done in all the years before you can even begin to do that. And yes, there are some negative entities that have never been human, that aren't human, that feed off of what people have termed aloosh, or let's say wasted human energies, which are, again, it's a very real thing. We're just getting to the point where we have sensing equipment to even measure these things. It's been there, and we're getting more and more all the time. So there's been devices that since the 60s could see some of these entities. There was a blue dye back in the 20s that they made illegal for no reason at all, not because there was any carcinogenesis proved with it or anything like that, because they really didn't look at things in those days from those terms for the most part. It was called dicyanin dye. Mm-hmm. And when you would put this chemical between two plates of glass, it was a liquid, and it was a dye, a clothing dye. There were interesting properties to it. You could then see things that you were not seeing. They made glasses out of them. Yes, that's where that whole, when I think it was Carpenter did that film, They Live. So many people have referenced it. I finally went and watched it a couple of years back. And yeah, they're putting on those glasses. And when asked about it, Carpenter said it's more of a documentary. What was he saying? Okay, he was referring to dicyanin dye glasses from the 1920s. But all of a sudden, dicyanin blue was made illegal.
Wow, sounds like methylene blue.
Sort of, but it's not. Methylene blue is a different chemistry altogether. But you're talking about something that that was made illegal because what these guys are pointing to, they're saying exorcists. People automatically assume demonic entities, and they are. But you know what? If you sat down with one of those whacked out entities, because they like to scare, that's how they feed. But when you understand what they are, they absolutely have no control over you whatsoever. That's not saying go out there and toy with it. Don't, unless you have a foundation. And people who know more than you about it before you ever walk into that. But I think what they're doing here, the fact that you're seeing a headline about it, is they simply are sowing seeds for something they're doing. And it may not have anything to do with what that headline is. They're just whipping up a little fear out there and a little trepidation, because those entities will tell you we can't survive any other way. This is how we live. I'm not saying give a demon a pass. No, but that's what they would tell you. And so is it necessarily what you've been taught through religion, etc.? Or was Jesus dealing with them for what they were and saying, get out of here. I know what you are because, yeah, I found out, or I am him, so I already know. Do you think he didn't want you to know what they were? Do you think other men kept that from you to keep their effect upon society so you'd be dependent upon them? There's a little bit of that in there, absolutely. So when you see things like this, you can either take it from the let me dyed in the wool Catholic, or you can look at it from a different lens that we're now having the benefit of as per study and science looking at these things, in addition to what it takes. Don't you find it interesting that mankind used Latin, but yet the only language that seems to be most effective with these demonic entities is Latin? Could it be that Latin was actually given to mankind from these? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It goes,
and
what
then
was the
you'd
name
be
of that?
speaking in their tongue, and you would have a militaristic, which don't equate the Roman Empire to us in present day terms. There's a lot different, a lot is similar because it's humanity doing the same kind of thing in a way, but we're not doing it to conquer and to own in any other way than to say, look, we're all going to have to do business together. We can either do that or we can fight. Get it out of the way now. But you couldn't move forward in this world. And going back to earlier subjects, yes, I don't mean to divert, but what I'm saying is really start to look at these things from a lens of pragmatism and know that they're negative, know that that's how they live. If we could cast them off on this planet, they'd go somewhere else. Let's say, speaking in everyday terms, they go somewhere else.
Hey, Ghost, what was the name of that? Oh, what was the name of that blue stuff? Did you have a name on that?
I believe it's called dicyanin dye.
Dithiamine?
Dicyanin.
Dicyanin.
CYANIN.
Yeah, dicyanin glasses.
Yeah.
I actually have an original pair.
Oh shit!
Oh, get out!
Yeah, I do. Cost quite a bit of money. I got it. I think it was about 15 years ago. Yeah.
The hazardous at all to you?
No. I keep them in a safe lockup box, but when I see you guys, I'll bring them so you guys can, test them out.
It accentuates certain wavelengths of light the eye and the brain aren't processing necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm seeing like an ad for one. Wait, what the hell is this? I don't know if this
anything new, anything that's new out, saying it has the same quantitative or quality properties isn't the original.
Going to be Bush League,
right?
The
original. Yeah, it's not the original recipe per se.
Yeah.
Diacetyl or dicyanin aura glasses.
No, that's
$59.99 on eBay. Well, yeah, I just literally Googled it and I'm like, oh wait,
somebody in China's laughing all the way to the bank.
Right? I bet you they come from Temu.
And those probably got some stuff on there that might give you some cancer.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh my goodness. Go ahead, buddy. I was just going to say, too, in response to what you were talking about as far as the looch and stuff, I feel like, I used to like to watch this guy named Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he had this one speech, like a 10-minute thing on YouTube talking about love versus fear, right? And if you can keep your person, if I can keep Ghost and Mike scared, Well, they're basically, their bodies are not acting as they're supposed to because you're in a fight or flight situation. So you're either living in peace and harmony and love, or you're living in fear. And in that case, you take longer to heal. Stay sicker longer. All sorts of things that are bad for you. But like, I feel like that's the narrative that they've always had to have some boogeyman out there, right? Oh, North Korea, they're doing this, and it's Iran now, and whatever, it was Russia back then, and China, and it's always for a thing to keep us. I've believed for a long time it's to keep us, spiritually low. So we're kind of in a fear, and we're on a low vibration.
Very spiritually bankrupt and needful. I would rather walk with God in an open, wide open channel all day than indulge in these traditionally now global fantasies of fear and the ginning up of it. And a lot of times there's nothing behind it actually, other than, yes, North Korea has a couple of warheads. Don't want them to, too late. Don't want that happening there. Think of the future fear that could be, and actual acts that could be committed from a group that has no ethical or moral issue, whatever, with popping one of those off. It's the last thing anyone in uniform ever wants to have to deal with.
Yeah. And the scariest part is your independent third party or rogue nation that goes out there and does it to coin it on one side and have the other side retaliate on the other. That's been brought up in quite a bit in military science classes or just classes in itself. Is you have your third body proxy, who wants to blame shift one on the other to ultimately cultivate a war between two. And that's, for myself, that would be, the scariest of them all. And there's actually a very, very good movie that was portrayed this. And it's one of the favorite movies that I still like to this day, which is The Sum of All Fears. That's a good one. The Sum of All Fears actually portrayed that theory of that third body proxy with a nuclear warhead, using it against the U.S. to make it look like Russia actually was the one that had detonated it in the stadium. And it's a very delicate alley to go down to, but it's also a very real world issue, that we face in the times that we're in now. And I'm not saying it's actually there happening now, but I'm saying, it's one of those things that you have to consider on the back burner. Is there a possibility? And, and The Sum of All Fears with Jack Ryan and Harrison Ford playing the roles of Jack Ryan. And I actually think it was a different actor at that time. And an excellent movie portraying that.
Yeah, I think this one was Ben Affleck in this one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This is the end of it. So guys, you're touching on some kind of woo stuff, which is oh God, what is it called? None Shall Sleep. Christopher, I forget the song that's being sung here, right? And this is the one that President Trump has had played many times at his speeches, right?
Yeah.
And his rallies at the end. So and that's something. So I'll just give you guys I'll float a little scenario out there for you. So some folks out there believe President Trump has had control the whole time since his first, or maybe he left it to the military during those 4 years hiatus or whatever. And then others believe, no, he lost, but these guys have maybe some sort of a nuke somewhere that is possibly kind of playing out like this, like, hey, if you take this country down, then we're going to hit you with something, but we have it, but you can't find it. And so the theory was like, oh, they're searching for it, and until they find it, you know, nobody's really safe. And then, so I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm just putting out scenarios of what people believe that, you know, could have been happening over these last many years. And then the last thing I'll add to that is during the 4-year hiatus there, or whatever, we were watching the shorter Biden turn into the taller Biden, who didn't look like anything, just you know, just looked really weird. Where was I going with this? It basically,
you were getting weird on us. No.
I can get a lot weirder than that. But so basically, the theory is that, you know, that maybe there's an object out there that they're looking for. Okay, and the last one was the 4 years while whatever was going on under Joe Biden or whatever that was, they did, and we had people, and this could have been spoofed as well, I don't know, but you had people that were watching military aircraft trackers, and they absolutely were showing, so I don't know if they were there or not, but they were showing these nuclear sniffers going down the East Coast quite a lot, like repetitively over and over, and a lot of them were in Florida as well. So I'm just kind of giving you data points. Yeah, the Gulf of America.
You're talking about when they were going from New York down south to Florida.
Yes, yep, and then repeatedly over and over and over again.
Yeah, I remember that.
So just some data points. And did you guys ever see that little weird video of?
Well, it has been a real threat. And one thing I can guarantee, and I don't think there's very many people who can counter what I'm going to say, if that country had remained with that regime, with what they had underground and what they were building towards, they had it. Don't you think they'd be selling to the highest bidder? Don't you think other people with an axe to grind in other extremist groups? I'm not talking about the lily-livered stuff they call extremist groups stateside. Some of them are, affiliated with them, and they're bad. But your everyday, let's get some headline stuff that you're paying them to be that way, and at the same time, being able to use them as your scapegoat and then create non-existent controversy where nothing exists to ground it in reality. Okay, this is very real. That would have been a very real threat on, and it would have been a constant one.
Well, and if you also go back before the beginning of the conflict of Iran, if you look at the people that were very, very high up gun runners, arms traffickers, Victor the Boot, and others that were released from prison, right? You could say a year and a half, a couple months before the issues with Iran started. These people were released, and then you had someone like Victor the Boot put into a certain role within Putin's President Putin's cabinet position, if whatever you want to call it, who is a very profound arms trafficker, and globally, historically profound, and if I don't know if you could pull up the position that he's at now within Russia. I'm not sure if he's an advisor or if he's a consultant advisor
Which guy?
For Victor the Boot.
Victor the
I'm going to
Boot?
butcher. Yeah, if you type in Victor the Boot, he's an global arms trafficker, former global arms trafficker. Nicolas Cage actually made a movie about him with arms trafficking.
Oh, Lord of War?
I forget the name of the movie. Yeah, Lord of War. Yeah, so that movie was actually about Victor the Boot.
Wow. Oh, Victor Bout? Maybe this guy.
Yeah, they call him the Boot. His nickname is the Boot.
Oh, wow. Russian arms dealer, politician, weapons manufacturer, Soviet military translator. So this was the guy Nicolas Cage was playing in the movie?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God! I remember when he went to friggin' Africa and he got all messed up on drugs, and he's asking the African prostitute, "Oh my God, what did I do? What did I do?" She's like, "You didn't do
Right.
nothing." He's like, "Oh God, thanks." She's like, "I did." He's like, "Oh no!" He's like 90%
Yeah.
AIDS or something like that. But yeah, that was a great movie, and it just shows you like what happens during war times when you have all this excess weaponry and munitions and stuff like that, that these people are just opportunistic and get in there and start selling, to my cousin, Sergey, he got this this warehouse over here.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
And they don't care what it's used for or who gets it in the end, as long as they get theirs. And there's that, and then you've got nation states that would set up scenarios quietly, and it would look like one thing and be another. All of that would have been an ongoing real pain in the ass if Iran had kept going on its current trajectory. And there's very little out there to argue with it, even though some will say, no, well, they didn't. No, they did. You don't have a reactor there. The Russians have 700 technicians and scientists there helping you operate for the last 30 plus years for no reason at all. And the French have sold you components, and the Germans have made things for you. And now everybody, what populations would be most at risk with them having a weapon? Yeah, Europe. So in the end, this is, there may be a lot of political noise about it, but in other areas, there's very little noise and very little misunderstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, guys, I don't know who this guy is, right? And I made that caveat the other day. And I won't play the video, but I'll just basically say, what this guy's saying. He's saying, maybe there was more on board on that Tuska trip, that Tuska, carrier that they hit the other day, or the one that they boarded. He's saying we're seeing what's on board. It isn't a boast or a boat. It's a legal cover for what comes next. It's not a boast. Iran can't complain without telling you what was on it. Lloyd's of London doesn't wait for headlines. So they're alleging that, or this person anyway is alleging that maybe something was in that plane or that carrier that they took down. And again, I think it was coming from China area, and so they could be moving things in. But then other people said, well, how stupid would they be to be moving, any pertinent equipment through this area, as they know there's a blockade going on over there. So I don't know if you guys want to make any comment on any of that, any of that jibber jabber.
I don't know. What specifics are there on? I'm sorry, that one. I know what you're talking about, but I don't have a lot of details on it.
I'll play a little clip of this guy here because he's talking about, let me see.
You need to know. The ship is the Tuska, Iranian flag nearly 900 feet long. According to the president, it tried to run the U.S. naval blockade in the Gulf of Oman today. The USS Spruance gave fair warning. The crew refused, so the Navy shot out the engine room. U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel. Trump said, we're seeing what's on board. I think he knows what might be on board. Most blockade ships you've heard about are Shadow Fleet tankers. They're just smuggling oil. The Tuska is different. It's not sanctioned for moving oil. It's sanctioned under WMD Proliferation Authority. The U.S. government has documented its owners transporting components for Iran's ballistic missile program. The EU sanctioned them because the Revolutionary Guard converts those container ships into drone carriers. Iran shares missile technology with the worst regimes on Earth. Those Iranian missiles hitting U.S. facilities and Israeli cities right now, the short-range ones are upgraded North Korean Scud-Cs. The longer-range ones are derivatives of North Korean No-Dong technology. And in return, since 2013, North Korea has been shipping Iran components for a rocket booster powerful enough to reach the United States. UN experts confirmed transfers as recently as 2020. The logistics vessel for that pipeline, that's who runs the Tuska. So the Marines just grabbed a ship known for trading WMDs right before more peace talks. America apparently isn't going to sit around and pretend that Iran isn't a threat. Trump is bringing this to a turning point. The UN.
So again, I can't verify it, but it is a valid point to say, wouldn't you be stupid to, be cruising in a sanctioned carrier through that area while a blockade is going on? But my counter to that was, well, maybe they needed to get some stuff out of a certain area that was about to be compromised,
Well, that's the first thing I thought was what's on that ship.
Well, and that goes kind of back to, relatively sounding like a ghost fleet or a ghost ship. Yep. And ghost ships, if people don't know what those are, is it's a ghost ship could be a fishing vessel that's actually a Russian intelligence
Listening.
collection vessel that collects it. It could be off Catalina Island, Catalina Island, and it looks like a fishing trawler. And and it could be all sorts of shapes and sizes of different ships, aircraft, and so it quite could possibly be that it was part of a ghost fleet, and in the ghost fleets, those are run by the military, the naval, at a naval capacity.
Mm-hmm. That one, look at the size of it. Like, I think it's 900 foot in length. Our longest carriers are 1,100, around 1,100, around 1,098 feet or somewhat, give or take. I don't know. But it's a big ship.
I think
you can carry a lot of stuff in those holds. Yeah. And
they're very large.
That's crazy.
So, and you get to those larger container ships, you're talking. I mean, I heard one was 250,000 displacement. That's massive. But this is a ship with holds. So, yeah, let's take a look under the covers here.
Did you hear the little clip from President Trump? Listen to this 20-second blurb. This is funny.
Restocking. We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps. I don't know. But I'm a little surprised, but because I have a very good relationship, and I thought I had an understanding with President Xi, but that's all right. That's the way war goes, right?
So I love the way he always says things kind of like, oh, yeah, I wonder what's got on there. Like, yeah, okay, so we're saying, yes, it probably did.
But yeah, I'm going to give you a big bear hug, Xi.
And guys,
people are saying, like I said before when we were talking briefly, people, and this is important for people to understand, don't take him literally, but listen to everything he says.
Yep.
And he's been consistent from the first time. And it's not a political statement. It's common sense.
Yeah, and on that very point, to the people on our air quotes, our side, who for some reason, turned recently to fact checking every word President Trump has to say, like he's some Democrat that needs to tell us exactly what's going on during a wartime setting. Maybe check your bearings, because I don't want to know what the military is actually doing, right? And if I know what they're doing, then guess who else knows what they're doing? Yeah, the enemy knows what they're doing. So we don't forecast our moves.
Everybody knows what's going on,
right? We don't.
The point is moot.
Yeah, we don't forecast our moves. Conditions on the ground dictate when they attack. And so, perfect example was a couple weeks ago when he came out with the 7-point. They had a 7-point, we had a 10-point, or vice versa, right? And then it came out the next day. It's like, no, they weren't talking. But what happened? It started fracturing the inside of the IRCG to the point where these people were fighting with each other, right? And so, is he going to say things that are incorrect at times? But yes, there's a reason for it. It's not to be, lying to us and be like, oh, I got to lie to the American people. He. No, there's a reason behind things, right? To cause chaos, to cause confusion. Oh, is Trump talking to Ahmed over there, or is he not talking to Ahmed over there? Can I trust Ahmed? Do I need to shoot Ahmed later? You know what I mean? I'm just throwing out some, Middle Eastern names, whatever, but that's kind of the gist of it, right? Like, is somebody working with Trump in here that I'm not aware of? And then these people are all looking over their shoulders. And from what Tusi is saying, that these people are almost scared to take power because it's almost certainly a death penalty.
Well, here's your office, duck.
Can I get some bomb-proof, bulletproof protection over here?
Where's the sliding chute to the basement bunker? That's all I'd be asking. I mean, and a lot of them, he'll say something and he'll say something, well, that was very nice of them. And they'll say, well, we didn't do anything nice. I mean, he's toying with them on a lot of ways because they're so pathetic. How could you not? I mean, they just leave it wide open for you to. But that's the mind of a radical. Easily jilted.
Yeah.
But it's gonna. What people are gonna hate most of all is that it all works out. That's what that's what the ones who have TDS and all these weird anomalies in their head going on, they're going to be so pissed off because again, it worked. Why? Because it actually needed to be done. That's why. And they're not going to give them the credit for that.
No, and I'm right on board with you. I do genuinely get the feeling that certain people would be more happy that they were right and the country goes to shit, right? Just to be like, I was right. And it's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's again the whole, I liken a lot of this stuff too. Like, I feel like good things are coming. I feel like really good things are happening. But then you get somebody in here that wants to drop a turd in the punch bowl, right? Wants to be the negative Nelly or whatever. And I take it that like you're messing with my reality, right? Because you're trying to push on all this negative stuff into my reality, but I want to bring in good stuff into my reality. I want to manifest good stuff and positive things, which are where I really truly believe we're headed. And that's what I believe you can actually manifest is what you truly believe. You know what I mean? Like, do I believe I'm going to win $20 million in the lottery tonight? Well, it's more easily to believe I can get hit by a car, walking down the street than winning $30 million in a lottery. So I genuinely believe I could get hit by it. You know what I mean? But do I genuinely believe I'll win that $30 million today? No, but I genuinely do believe that President Trump has a good plan, and I honestly don't even think it's his plan, guys. I've said this many times over the last couple of years. I look at President Trump as and not to diminish him at all, but like he's the ringleader or the spokesperson to what we're dealing with here. And the idea that some people are thinking he's sitting in his office like, oh my God, hit him with a couple more missiles. Did that work? No. Threaten him this. Susie, what do we got, Susie? Susie, what do we got? Right? Like, I genuinely don't think that's what's going on.
Thinking.
I think this stuff has been laid out for a very long time, but any thoughts, guys?
That's not how it works.
Yeah, it's these children, like these know-it-alls in Hollywood, for example. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground with any of the realities of this stuff, to be honest with you. And they only know what people tell them that they are fortunate enough to meet or question. And just they're pimps. They're being pimped rather for their notoriety. Well, who cares what any of them say? They're just, and this is how disgusting history will look back on a lot, and not only in that industry, in that part of the world, but many all over. The stupid things they said just to stir in lesser knowledgeable other people in society, to get their brains to work against things, to get them to try to run over an ICE agent who's just like you, lady, has a family, but is not, and is doing a job that needs to be done. And everybody knows that. Common sense involved with that. Then they gin up these base sentiments. And they ought to feel ashamed of themselves. Because if they really believe that way, they're pretty damn stupid to begin with. And a lot of them do, unfortunately. But then again, they're doing it because they need to do that next film, that next paycheck, or that next article, whatever anybody out there is engaging in. And to engage in this cult of personality nonsense is the biggest time waster of all and the biggest energy waster of all.
Yeah.
And I think certain things could be probably explained in a little more detail better for people to understand. But then again, that usually just leads to more confusion. But the one thing you can see many of these people in this administration doing is just telling you like it is. And if you don't like what you're hearing, explain why, but give reason. Don't give, because you just hate this one or hate that one. I find it hard to dislike people. I can dislike their actions, but I can't dislike the individual unless I know them. And I can say, well, Chuck Schumer, yeah, his actions and his mouth are consistent with that of an a-hole. And most people see that. And that's as far as I can go with it. I don't know the man. Can't say I want to, but you see what I'm saying? It's such a waste of time to get into this
No, you're true. You're
cult of
right.
personality. I actually felt if Biden were him, okay, I'll phrase it this way: if that were him, I felt bad for the guy because he didn't know he didn't know left from right. It was obvious to anyone, and they have to get him up. Probably he's got a doctor like oh God, I don't want to bring this in because then people get all ridiculous with all of that. He had a doctor like Dr. Morell for Hitler. Okay, there keeping him going all day long. I was thinking that this is the only way they can be doing this, with pharmaceuticals or whatever. But I wasn't going to sit here and feel hate for the guy. I felt sorry for him that he allowed his whole life to be that of a whore for political angles. And if you go all the way back to when he was in the 80s, the things he was saying, the outright lies of his, I have degrees in this and degrees in that. And I feel, you finished at the bottom of your classes, and I think you had one or two postgraduate degrees behind your name. But he would lie just without thinking people were going to check him on it then. I don't know how these people do it. I really don't. They can't be human all the way. I just don't believe it. But when you do have somebody who's just telling you like it is, dealing with other leaders, he's not a politician. He's maintained that attitude throughout his life. You see it in many interviews, not just the Barbara Walters one from decades ago, where it's all been consistent all the way to this day. I think that's the thing when people see that kind of just upfront reality, whether you agree with his position on the item or not is irrelevant. Just to hate him and you don't even know him is pretty ridiculous in my mind. How do you do that with somebody? I can hate what they do, but you can't hate everything he does because everything he does is working. That's another thing you hate. Those that people hate it. Now you have the other crowd you're talking about that is just impatient.
Exactly.
And they want what they want because it's been 10 years of my life. Well, add 2 or 3 more decades to that for some people and see what you get with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing what's going on. It is a very complex series of goals that are trying to be reached. And so far, so good.
Yeah, and I've only been doing this, for about 10 years or so, but I understand there have been people, that I've talked to throughout the movement, you guys and many others that have been, awoken since, the 70s or 60s even, that have been doing this. So I'm kind of a rookie, so to speak, on the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it's the interesting part too is I think that, when I look back at the history of President Trump being in office, the turncoats that we're seeing right now, and that's what I believe that they are, either for whatever, if they're being opportunistic or they genuinely believe he's turning his back on us, I feel like they are just too quick on the draw because he has not done one damn thing since he was inaugurated the first time that he deserves to be treated the way he's being treated recently. With some of these people just turning their back flat on him and then attacking him on top of it. So I'm like, all right, show me one example why you can believe that he's turning his back on us now. He's going to wait till the first administration's over, the 4 years in the middle, and then wait now at the end as everything's building up and everything's coming back full into focus. Now he's going to say, I don't feel like it. Like, show me that one thing that he's done that he deserves that we kind of turn our back on him that quickly, and I just don't see it. So that's why it kind of pisses me off.
There's nothing that's hurt, I think, us long term. Nothing that's hurt us really to speak of on that level. Everything's only moved it and moved that ball forward. And I think this 250th 4th of July is going to be a very important one. And This is from my perspective and my position. I do see a number of things just more and more happening, and a number more and more, let's say, meaningful to where people's minds are in the public, more meaningful to the country in their eyes. They'll finally see some things between now and then. I think a lot of things have been timed to be in place for that time. And it is all ultimately in the benefit of this nation. Simple as that.
Heck yeah, and that's what I've said too recently. That they're gonna need some speeding up of some stuff before the 4th of July, and I do see that coming, and I can see it ramping up as we speak. Mike, did you want to say something, buddy? Thought he maybe unmuted.
No.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard you unmute, but I do see things ramping up, right? Like we do see the grand conspiracy case down in Florida, where historically, I've mentioned this a couple times this week already. Sorry, but generally they take the so all right, Ghost is a witness, and he writes down his testimony, and then he swears to it, and then I bring that to the grand jury. Well, I guess some of these witnesses for John Brennan, anyways, they're actually bringing the witnesses right to the grand jury and having them testify there, which the article noted was a little odd. So again, it's a huge conspiracy, and I personally believe all of this stuff wraps up into one gigantic grand conspiracy, RICO, and I think and above that as well, because you're bringing in maybe uranium one, certain things with other countries. So at the very least, I think we're looking at a lot of treason here. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree fully. It is treason. You had this very powerful agenda that wanted to bring in, usher in their one world governance, etc. All right. There's a case that's out there that's being made that, well, there's multipolar and there's unipolar. Is it still a unipolar goal from a multipolar perspective of power maneuvering? You have to always be on the lookout for that, don't you? Everything is always a possibility. Now, whether it's has a high probability is another question. But too much has aligned. And I know people wanted them to jump on the Epstein stuff. Do you want everybody and as much as possibly can be done against those everybody's?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you want just a handful and the rest of them have then a position to cover from? And obfuscate becomes harder. More of that type of thinking is left out in this world, activities rather. No, I think you want to shut as much down as humanly possible with as much. And these things take time sometimes, and there are setbacks. But I don't know if the true nature of a lot of things will ever be fully revealed. You'll be able to read it between the lines for sure, but again, that's for what comes and how it's dealt with. The idea that they outed this one organization, Southern Poverty Law Center, on its shenanigans, that is representative of a number of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
That you want them to go and get them all in one day? Impossible. Impossible. For a number of reasons. Most of them being going by what's on the books as far as reasonable law. So you're working in certain respects within a system to expose a system. The most difficult thing to do, by the way, it takes time. And the most impeding of that process as far as public opinion is concerned, is those who then throw a tantrum or an ongoing tantrum and saying, well, they should have done this way or should have done that. I promise you, with everything you look at that you say it should be done this way, there's a myriad of issues and problems and then ways to deal with them that are much more complex of what you're looking at. And that takes time. You want to block every road of retreat. And you want them to go down that one main road, and there it is. So Yeah, I think when certain blocks start falling, many will fall. Many blocks will fall. And I think people are going to begin to see shortly enough the fruits of all of this.
Yeah, and I think, the way they laid this out and, whether there were roadblocks, internal pressures, fights, whatever may or may not have happened on the inside, the long and short of it is it's absolutely a fact that all these people didn't give two craps about Epstein, and they never did. 2008 when he was arrested, all the way up to
7 and 8,
2016,
yeah.
17, all the way to 20.
Where was everybody's outrage then?
Right? Only when they thought that they could tie it to President Trump, when he sat back in his office and he went, what's all this stuff about the Epstein stuff? Probably some Democrat hoax. And then everybody's, that's when some of these people started turning their shoulder to Trump, right? And then Iran was the kicker to make them finally turn their back. But this was like part of it. Oh, wait, he's out there saying it's fake. And I'm like, are you guys that freaking stupid? Like, he's going to come out in 2015, start talking about Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, going to have a lot of problems about the island. If you were related to that stuff, and anybody you wanted to protect in any way, shape, or form was connected to that stuff, that is the last thing you do is bring that out on the world stage at CPAC in 2016 or whatever it was, 15, right? I don't care. And if you think you got control of whatever, you would just never bring it up, ever. But he did. And then he continued to bring it up. And then he said, what's all this Epstein stuff? And then they were like, oh, he must be blah. We need to see it. And that's why he called these people a bunch of friggin' hypocrites, especially the lefties, because a lot of these people didn't give two craps until they thought that they could pin it to Trump. And then when they did, they wanted to see it, right? And then it was just, we need to see the files.
Yeah, oh, you really want to see that, huh? Okay. But there'll be the time for it. I don't think anybody's going to walk on a lot of these things. And what are they trying to do again? Impeach him?
Oh, they will, yeah. They'll try to.
Seriously. You're going to do that nonsense again. And meanwhile, nothing gets done. And then they wonder why people can't stand them.
Yeah.
Because of their actions or inactions. Inaction is every bit as much.
Yeah,
of an
they'll spend more time trying to impeach him than funding bills for DHS, TSA, people that need to get paid for their paychecks, for everyday jobs, supporting the country and, providing for the families. But yet they want to spend more time on something more of the offset than actually what they're supposed to be doing for the country in voting on for certain laws and regulations. And it's just kind of an obfuscation and upsetting at the same time.
It is. And it's they know exactly what they're doing. And that's what I call bureaucratic sedition. When they act in alignment with one another to impede processes that would benefit the American people.
Absolutely.
And if they're doing it because they can't stand the administration, whatever the reasons may be, whatever their pathetic reasons and their pathetic minds are, they're just not. That ship has sailed. They're keeping a lot of people who were out there kind of going, what's going on? What's really going on? There's nothing ever pans out to their simplistic envisionings, let's say. I don't, it's the only thing I can figure. But in the end, you had to deal with certain things external to these borders before you could then deal internally. You didn't want money transferring, so to speak, or they could mount defenses outside of the borders. There's so much going on here that involves other corridors of law that most people don't even talk about. So in reality, I think we're actually way further along than most people realize.
Yeah.
Let me unmute there. Yeah, I believe so as well.
Yeah. And ironically, it's kind of funny because at the same time, they're doing those things, and now they're getting caught up in corruption charges and money laundering and IRS tax evasion. I mean, you're talking about congressmen and senators, you know, being caught up in all these things right now, you know, red-handed, caught red-handed, and now
like
I think there's one congressman that's been missing since March, and no one knows where he's at.
Oh,
So
really?
Is that still going on?
Yeah. So I mean,
What about Maxine Waters too? I heard that they may be she may be in like hiding or something. Not in hiding, but like she may be. Let's just say her faculties may not be up to snuff. Is she still in She's still in, right? I could have sworn somebody
Was
the
there
day
ever
was
a time they were?
I think it said previous at the top.
the previous South African. Let's see. I think
Previous
she's.
officer.
I'm pretty sure she's still in the office, but I'm pretty sure this was the person they were talking about the other day, saying that Congresswoman.
No,
Yeah,
there was a guy too. Forgot his name. There's a gentleman.
Is it a public thing?
Ghost, what was the guy's name? What was the guy's name? The congressman that's the two other congressmen tried
legs.
to.
Good Lord! Trying to
this
remember
guy?
his name.
Tom Keene?
I think so. I think
that's the guy's name from Blacklist. Oh God. Tom Keene with the FBI and Elizabeth Keene. New Jersey Rep Tom Keene has been missing for weeks over mysterious health issues. Health issues.
Is he the son of the former governor?
Tom Keene Jr. Let's check
Looks like
him out.
Looks like he could be.
Tom Keene. Parents Thomas H. Keene, former governor of New Jersey. Yep.
Yeah.
91 years old at this time. Interesting. And so he's missing. That's weird. And I'm pretty sure they were saying that somebody was voting for Maxine Waters or something like that, and that maybe she may not be in the best of health right now. Which, they do that
Probably
stuff a lot.
Maxine Waters is another case where you can polish a turd and put it out there.
And let's see.
Nice red ribbon on it.
But guys, I think they get a bad rap though, because they've put a lot of decades into California. Gavin Newsom 29 years, Pelosi 38, Kamala Harris 23 years, Maxine Waters 49 years, Schiff 29, Karen Bass 21 years, 189 combined years, guys. I mean, look how great of a job they're doing.
They need to change up the players out there. They really do. But these people are known quantities.
You know what's funny is like they show the pictures of. So, like, you have all these homeless population encampments, and they're all districted in certain areas, right? But they make Los Angeles look like it's this horrible place to visit. In reality, if you were to come to Los Angeles and go around, you would see it's not what's shown on TV.
Yeah, it's a nice place to visit.
Wow. How about San Francisco? I heard or as of at least a couple of years ago, it was pretty shitty.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I was working up in San Francisco and Sonoma back and forth in 2024, 23, into 23, 24. And that was pretty rough because you could not leave anything in your car. And get you not, people would empty their car, put a piece of paper with with big Sharpie on the paper and say, "There's nothing in my car. Please do not break my window. There's nothing to steal in my car." Wow. And when we would park our cars down in San Francisco, you would have to take everything out, or else everything or people, your car is going to be broken into. Well, when oddly. Funny enough, and it's just funny enough, when President Xi came over to visit, with Gavin Newsom, all of a sudden it was clean.
Yep.
It was clean, crime stricken free for a good period of time, and it was just a clean city. They're out there with sandblasters cleaning the pavement and everything. No homeless to be seen, and they were put wherever they were put, and it was just interesting, very interesting time.
Yeah. Then you got the Spencer Pratt guy, the former reality guy, going against going for, I don't know, if was he going for, he's going for mayor over there, and then you got who was it, Steve Hilton, and then Chad Bianchi going for governor. So should be
Chad
interesting.
Bianco.
Bianchi, I said.
Bianco. Yep. Riverside Sheriff.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. I know him well.
Look at that. We cleaned it up good for G over there. We cleaned it up good for you, sir, his master. And I mean, it is.
Yeah, and what's caused all that? Fentanyl freaks trying to get good shit to buy. Thank you, G, and thank you, Mexico, for that.
Yeah. That's truly your real opioid epidemic. It's not these big pharmaceutical companies. It's cheap grade lace cut fentanyl, pseudo fentanyl. There's no way you go on the streets. I work narcotics, right? So you go on the streets and you want to buy a 30 milligram Percocet, or you want to buy 10 milligram or a Norco, or you want to buy a 3 microgram patch of fentanyl. Well, your 10 milligram Norco is going to cost you $8 a pill. Your 30 milligram Percocet, it's going to cost you around $10 to $15, even $30 a pill. And your fentanyl patch is going to cost you around a good $30-$50 a patch for 3 micrograms. And obviously the dosage goes up and the price goes up. And so when you see a lot of these, unfortunately, people that are addicted to substances and drugs and these drugs, you got to really take back and take a look at it. Is that these people they don't work, they live on the streets, they have no money coming in. Even if they do have money coming in from the government assistance programs, or money coming in from those programs, and they're using that to buy their illicit drugs, there's no way they can afford to buy real Percocet, Norco, fentanyl, Oxycontin, whatever it may be. It's too expensive. And so what they're getting is what the cartels are cutting is with pseudo fentanyl and other forms of higher derivatives that are much, much stronger than pseudo and fentanyl itself, which I believe it's 3,000 times stronger to 5,000 times stronger than morphine itself.
Damn.
And
that would be sufentanil, yeah.
Yeah,
and at least 1,000. I know that. Unit
yeah, and so and it's actually big over in Baltimore right now too, and Detroit, Baltimore, and Chicago, and let's just say all over the area. And that's what they're buying is these. So you can actually go online and buy chemical substances from China that have these derivatives and have them sent over here, and all you have to say is, "Oh, I have a manufacturing laboratory, or I'm a chemist. I'm a chemist, and I'm testing things out." And that's all the Chinese government and cares about when they put it for packaging and labeling, and they send it over. And that's just a version of it. Now, when for the narcotics itself, what they're taking, is it's not the real Oxycontin, it's not the real fentanyl, it's all the, it's all hyped up, or it's all cut and laced with other stuff and cheapened to the cheapest degree. And
this pharmaceutical cornstarch.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why you have so many overdoses. And even with the overdoses, because with the ingredients, and the ingredients are so powerful, your Narcan, you can hit people with Narcan 5-10 times. And, you're lucky by the 10th time that they come back. And that's why it's so dangerous to law enforcement officers is that, they say it's fentanyl and they touch the fentanyl powder, right? And, it gets into you and it does a lot of real damage, but this stuff does a lot of real damage. And it does it within seconds. I mean, you're talking less than 5 seconds. And that's why in these areas, and God bless law enforcement is, and God bless the pharmacies now for, you can actually buy Narcan. And I think if you get medicine, if you do get medicine, like an opioid medicine, they have to give you Narcan.
They give it to you every so many months. They'll give it to people.
Yeah. And, but the stuff is so deadly that to the touch, if you get it on your finger, you touch your eye, you touch your mouth, you're within seconds of dying. And
we're talking about enough to fit on the head of a pin. Some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were to take that whole original compound on the head of a pin, that could kill at least 2 city blocks of people. And,
Jesus.
and that's the science behind it. But when you cut all that stuff down with different ingredients and byproducts to make it bigger and last longer, not to have your so-called customers overdose all the time so you can have them keep coming back. That's what's causing the crisis and the epidemic. And then when they go into rehab, it's so hard for them to get off of these street farmed pharmaceuticals, because a lot of times they'll have to go into a induced coma, and so the doctors will have to put them in a chemical induced coma to literally withdraw them.
Withdrawal.
Yeah, and so and there's actually been a lot of, I think, some legislative work where ibogaines actually came in the picture too.
Yeah.
To actually help people that are having issues with it, that want to get off of it. That ibogaine's actually been proven to be beneficial and helpful, and has been a positive. But yeah, your crisis and your epidemic side, it's coming from the the dirty players overseas, and it's a huge health hazard, huge public health hazard.
And
crazy.
Chemicals are that potent. There's one type of nerve gas. There's a number of types of them. They're in the organophosphate family, most of them. But with sarin, for example, someone was seeing something the other day where someone was saying that someone in their lab decided to be lax, and drop went through their clothing. Well, that's the most idiotic thing ever. It went through the clothing and killed the poor girl in the lab. But that stuff is so potent that just the residue on a doorknob, someone comes behind that individual, they're going to die. We're talking about microscopic amounts, invisible sometimes. So when you see other forms of narcotics like sufentanil, and even more, there's even a few more potent than that, it only takes a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. When you're taking that pill with whether it's morphine or oxycodone, very little of that pill is actually morphine, or the chemical with the center of action that works on the centers of action. Very little. You would barely see it if it were there in front of you. You just wouldn't even think of it. It would look like a little tiny, tiny speck of flour or something. That's how potent this stuff is. And it was only used in surgical theaters for decades. I mean, when I first heard of it coming out, I was like, this is insane. Insane. And look at what it's done.
All the drugs too, like
yeah, that's what I mean. The drugs on the street based on this stuff.
Well, and not only that though, but I've heard people, in Rhode Island, overdosed on marijuana because it had fentanyl in it, right? And then they're putting it in candies and all, That's why I told my son, I'm like, I don't care if it's some kid don't even take candy from a friend unless you saw him buy it at a store and open up the bag, right in front of you, because you don't know what they're doing nowadays. And then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking wait, why are drug dealers putting fentanyl in, say, cocaine and heroin? Because that's what's making people overdose. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe it's to make it stronger, but then you're killing it. But then
I think there's a kill aspect to this that no one's really wanting to talk about because of where it all originates right now.
And it's not the best business model to kill your clients, right? I mean, if we're being honest, but it's if I'm a drug dealer,
pharmaceutical companies, don't cure the patient, but don't kill the patient.
Yeah, so something more is going on. And, it's a big hand grenade. They tried to, I think, on a bunch of different aspects, they try to throw a hand grenade into our country and destroy it from within, right? And on many different, the drugs, the trannies, the politics, and you can just keep listing them on for days. So, but we were headed in. Yeah, all manufactured, all, started with Orange Man bad and, was obviously more obvious against him. And they started exposing this stuff at record level. So I'm just, interested. I'm very interested and happy to be alive that we're kind of living through this because, kind of we were talking before, this stuff is very interesting to me. Ask me about politics 20 years ago, blech, whatever. I never would have thought I'd be interested in politics, right? But even when I'm done with this stuff and I go do a couple things I got to take care of today and I come back home later, I'm not perusing the friggin' TV to oh, what show's on today, whatever. This is what interests me, right? This is a real life, action thing as we're going because it's, I don't know, it's the future of our country is at stake, right? And it is like the second revolution. And to a lesser extent, we did get attacked, right? Obviously, some of the people in the 1700s obviously got taken out and killed, and as we are seeing, possibly some people are being taken off the playing field as well. And I'm looking at me. Ooh, I got kicked off of YouTube. That's a slap on the not even the wrist. That's like a slip on the friggin' the pinky nail. You know what I mean? So in the grand scheme of things, what we're dealing with now is kind of not as bad as what they had to deal with years ago, right? The brave men that signed the Declaration of Independence and what they knew they were getting themselves into. And I feel like we're dealing with the second American Revolution, but the interesting part is it's our own government that needs to get squared away. And guys, we're probably going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes because I do have to do a couple things. I'm sure you guys do as well, but I want to see what your guys' thoughts were on this one particular thing because I think it's funny, and I think it's very ironic. You guys know, apparently it's scheduled that King Charles, air quotes, King Charles is going to come here to help us celebrate the 250th anniversary. Does anybody else see the irony in that?
It's kind of like seeding Hong Kong in '97, I would think, in certain respects. I'll leave it there on that. I don't want to go down that road right now, but yeah, a little bit. But I call him Mr. Charles. We don't have kings here in the United States.
Well, as long as Simon Cowell comes over, with Britain's Got Talent, I think it should be a good show.
Oh, that'll cap it off just right. We got to have Ricky Gervais though do an hour stand-up routine against all the corruption.
Oh, that was the best, wasn't it? I mean, that was the best. He's like, oh, you guys had to drive your own cars here, right? Or your own jets here. Epstein wasn't here to pick you guys up, you dirtballs. Oh, my God. I loved that so much. But
it must be satisfying when you're fixed in your talent and you've got a position in the industry where you can say that and you're still going to get work.
Yeah, he's and I had no idea that The Office was even a thing. I didn't know The Office here was an offshoot of The Office over in the UK, that they had a show over there first and that we basically copied. So, but yeah, that he wrote that, I guess, Ricky Gervais, a very smart guy. And it's so funny. It's so Surviving Neverland, the two popes. Never mind. He's like, what does he say? The Hollywood Foreign Press are extremely racist. Some really good ones there. But So, guys, before we wrap up, anything else you guys want to get out the door? I'm going to do a couple of thank yous over here on Pilled and whatnot. But anything else you want to get? And if you guys got a blast off, if you guys got things to do, as I'm sure it's a Friday afternoon and you may have some things to do, but the floor is yours. Mike, we'll go with you. Anything that you want to say on the way out of here, sir?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you for everyone's for, their charitable donations, their, support, the prayers, that it meant tremendously going through Renee's first surgery. That meant everything. There was some time in the surgery that, it took a little bit longer than expected. But she did come out, and she's doing, she's recovering. She's in a lot of pain, but she's doing better. Should be getting the biopsy analysis today, and then we'll start focusing after her recovery. We're focusing on it now for her next phase of surgery, and I just want to say thank you for people helping on the GoFundMe. It's absolutely means a lot. For my wife, and it's I couldn't have asked for anything better in the world, and it means absolutely everything, and it shows how much love and strength and positivity and support and prayer, the power of prayer, that is still here in the world. That's with us. And, when I was in the surgery waiting room, I was sitting there by myself. I was really, contemplative. It was taking a long time. And then I saw my team come in, and, my team came in, and they blew off a whole training mission. They came and sat with me until she got out of surgery. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it brought me to tears, and and I just want to say thank you. It means a lot, and some of the team guys are on here listening too, so it's it means so much. And if you continue to support, prayers, support, pass it along, however it may be, we're extremely blessed. And it means a lot to us. Renee has a very long road ahead of her to get better. But we will take
she's on the transplant list, right?
Yeah. So we're in the process of that, and for a heart transplant list. There's a ton of stuff to do for that, and we're working on that. And so, it's one step at a time, minute by minute, hour by hour. And, I just want to say thank you to your audience for that. And
absolutely, Mike.
It means so much.
And it's my honor to share out this link, and my honor to ask, these fine people out here for prayers and assistance. And like I've said before, dude, my average post that I put out is between 300 and 700 views, and as you see here, and maybe I'll get a comment or 2 or 3, but whenever I ask for prayer, look at that, it's over 6,000 views, over 156 people took the time to actually go out there and comment. And the link is in the description box below, and I think the mods have been dropping it out during the show, so we do greatly appreciate it. But like I said, look at all these people putting in all the prayers, and so many folks, and I'm very happy that the prayer requests are my most interacted posts. It just shows you kind of what community we're dealing with here. So we do thank you guys out there, and the help is always appreciated. Never expected, but always appreciated. So thank you guys very much for that. And like Mike said, they got a long road ahead of them, and it's always really ticks me off. And I don't mean to bag on another person that's dead, but like, people that are like movie stars that get a $4 million ranch bought for them and then put out a GoFundMe for like, oh, we need $1 million. And then you get the $1 million and then they're like, oh, you know what? We need to make it $2 million now. And I'm like, those people, all right, they're set, right? These people right here, Mike and Renee, who were at Abbey Gate, during that ridiculous pullout, having to deal with some of the trauma that was, left from what should have never happened, really, right? And so many, many, many thanks to Renee and yourself, Mike, for service that you guys have done for our country as well. So we appreciate it right back at you, buddy.
Thank you.
Of course. Mr. Ghost, sir, any parting words on the way out of here? You want to make any bold predictions? Give us any dates? No, I know you don't do that, so I'm just busting.
Well, I would like to second what you guys said with the audience. They've been amazing, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. And because where nobody's out here, nobody's trying to make a buck off anything, and it's good that there are people out there who understand that, and that this is something this is life and death for people I care about very much. And I'm just grateful that there was a direction we could even take it in that would help. And people have been amazing. And I have nothing but gratitude all the way around for everything. And as far as the crap and horseshit going on in this world, I don't have much more to say about that than what we've covered. But I think we're going to have a very interesting time between now and the 4th.
Yes, sir. I do believe so as well. So, yes, thank you guys both. Let me just thank a couple of folks over here. We are no longer on D Live, so no more of that stuff over there. But we are on The Pilled, where GG Bro. I got to figure out how to say this. BWRKNIT. GG Knit. GGBW Knit. That's what I'm going to say. GGBW Knit. Donated 117 gold pills, so thank you for that. And then Joey G with the cookie. No message on there, but thank you. Sean Joe dropped a cookie and then a cookie right after that one. No message on those two. Space Squad member there, but thank you for those two, brother. And then Lizzie B with a cookie as well. No message on that one, but thank you. And then another cookie from Sean Joe. No message on that one, but thank you as well, brother. And then No Thanks Joe dropped a cookie. It says, happy Friday, Spaceshot. Nice to hear you, brother. And thank you for all your hard work. And I don't think Prince was ready to go, but even with his experience, it put him down unless the powers made sure he got his, in quotes, package. God bless you and your son. Stay safe. I appreciate that. Now I'm wondering, the Prince. I wonder if he's talking about Prince, the singer there, or this latest Prince. Let's see. But thank you for that, though. And the last one is Sean Joe, last but not least, with the cookie. Thank you for that, Sean Joe. I appreciate you guys. I'm releasing those scratch-offs right now, and they should be coming at you in a few momentos. I don't even know how to. Let me see. I think this one, Cyrus the Great dropped $1. Rumble ran over there, and Rumble says, if the Democrats were smart, which they're not, which we know that, right? He said, if the Democrats were smart, they would have relaxed and kept their head down. Trump's 2 terms would be over by now, and they'd have been fine. But as 17 told us, these people are stupid. And that's the funny thing is, right, is like on a certain respect, they are stupid, but they're also very smart, right? Like the thing I'll give them credit for, the other side, is they do work in lockstep with each other, hand in hand in hand. And it seems like a lot of people on our side are like, oh, I don't want to come on his podcast. He's more popular than me. Or I don't want to give this guy a hat tip, because it's like, no, work together with people. Let's try to, let's work together and stop being a bunch of morons out there. So as I say at the end of every show, I do appreciate all the mods and their wonderful help over the years, myself and many others. Today is Friday, so I will be back with Hulkinator at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Now, guys, did we decide we're going to do a Friday show or a Tuesday show, or are we kind of up in the air still?
Figure that out today.
To be determined. So we'll let you guys know. We'll always make sure we put out the postings.
I would say let's do Tuesday again, and
we'll do both.
That's just How about we just do both for a while?
That's what I was saying. Yeah, because I really enjoy Armando, and I know, he works in the school system, so he's not able to get out till later, but that's, be a couple of months or whatever. But so yeah, I did want to make sure to include him on Tuesday, and Mike, and Ghost as well too. Don't, if it's pushing you guys too much to do a couple shows a week, then if you do one or the other, that's fine. Or if you need to take a break, certainly take care of your wife, Mike, and obviously anytime you need to do that. So don't kill yourself on our account. We'll still push through and make it work. But yeah, we'll get it out, guys, and we'll get you all you folks the information of when we'll be live again. But the next one is me and Hulk tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Hope you guys can join us. Ghost and Mike, thank you guys so much again. And always to the mods out there, we do appreciate your help greatly. And to you guys who are tuning in, we do appreciate each and every one of you wonderful world patriots for tuning in out there. And until that next one, thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Peace.
Hello, guys. Something special is happening in here. That's right. It's brackets and jackets. Bringing it back for brackets and jackets. Special Epstein Island edition. That's right, folks. Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the man with the island, which is suspiciously close to Haiti. That's right. You see, this man, Jeffrey Epstein, is funding lots of people. He's funding lots of people on the street to make sure his shit doesn't get out. That's right. They want the record sealed. And they're paying a lot of people. Epstein's paying a lot of people. Oh, boy. For one, he's got a whole Mossad media matrix in America. And I would bet you anything that Alex Jones is one of them. Prove me wrong. That's right. Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the building with songs about Epstein. It's Breakfast Jacket's Epstein edition. Guys, I had some epiphanies today. I had some real big epiphanies about some guys. A big network of guys and spies and lies and liars. All right, think about this for a minute, okay? The guy in Portland, the scientist that just got busted for producing CP, that guy is 1 degree of separation away from Epstein. Epstein, the investor that lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. I know a guy who lives in West Palm Beach, Florida as well. Investor as well. Also involved as well. And all is not well with these guys. The Florida boys, the Glow boys, the Scott Israels of the world. You see, Epstein is Hillary Clinton. And Epstein is Haiti. And Epstein is a big network of media assets. By the way, did you know that Steve Bannon was going to that guy for money? Also, Epstein is Epstein Oprah. Epstein is Chris Tucker. You remember him. Epstein is also Kevin Spacey. Epstein is also Prince Andrew. Epstein is also... Who else is Epstein? Who else is Epstein? Tell me. You guys know? Who else is Epstein? Is Epstein Big Pharma? Is Epstein Bryan Singer? Is Epstein Naomi Campbell? Yep, all of the above. All of the above. Who is Epstein? Epstein is the keystone of a whole motherfucking matrix. And once you pull it out, it all falls down. Dersh was there too. That's right, we're dropping red pills every day. Dropping red pills in the best kind of way. This is brackets and jackets for the denizens of islands.